Hey guys, what is going on? It is Dan the Trading Man. Been a while since my last video. I apologize for that. Just been busy. But today I'm going to go over the S&P 500, crude oil, and gold. And there's been a lot of moves kind of across the board. Some in the S&P, definitely some back and forth action with oil, and some crazy events over the past few weekends that we've seen. And then in gold, obviously, has been, I think, mostly talked about out of all three. But starting with the S&P 500, as you see, clean uptrend for the most of 2019. I would say, just here's 2019. We just ripped up. We had a pullback back in the spring, May and June. You guys probably remember that as well. And then in my last couple of videos, I think I was referencing pretty much these two areas here, and we were constantly seeing what would happen if we would go shorter, or I'm sorry, lower or higher. And there were short opportunities up here that we thought would take us lower. This was a while back now, but there was some high to lows in this area with almost like a triple top going on. This is a daily chart, so it is a little bit deeper than the hourlies. But what happened here, if you really look at it, and of course there's a lot of Fibonacci moves as well, but this created a really nice trend to the upside. Oops, that's the wrong thing. So if you look at like a trend line here, you can just see, we're bouncing, 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 move up higher, bouncing, and then we haven't really come back yet. I'm sure eventually we will. We're testing new highs right now, and we know how that goes the last year or so with testing new highs. We'll eventually pull back and test some levels there. But if you really think about how some moves are created, there is almost like a wedge type pattern, and the tighter you get, you eventually squeeze out and get moving one direction. And so that's kind of what happened here. We were loose in the beginning, tagging back and forth and everything, and then eventually just had enough and squeezed this higher, and that's kind of what's been going on since. This was back in like the 2900s, and we're up to 3097. That was our high of just a few days ago. So I would say, just watching the S&P, being at highs is always, you got to be a little bit cautious just because of you're at highs, you're in untested waters, and just kind of play the levels that you see. And I like to play off of real levels that have been played on before. And so I did enjoy being in this area again where there's been action before time and time again, as you see to my left. And so having that makes it allows to have good trade calls because you're seeing what happened before. You can bring it to the present and trade off of those levels. Whereas when you're in untested waters, you don't have those yet. So you're building those levels as you go, and you don't really know what's going to be a level until a few months later, or less. But you know how that goes. So that's kind of what I see in the S&P. Going to crude oil, obviously just a lot of back and forth for the most part, I would argue. A couple weeks ago, we had a crazy Sunday where things just, well, Sunday night, I should say, over the weekend, something had happened and we ended up dropping like crazy, which I believe was this move right here. Going from, it's one of these two guys, going from 60s down to 50s. And so moving on from that, we have seen a lot of red days, obviously, here. But, this was lows for this particular area. And so time and time again, it's been support. We've seen them bounce off this level, this area, time and time again, just in this range down here. And so that's kind of what we've had the last few weeks in October, and then so far in November as well, just trying to come back up to these highs. And even last night, Sunday, into the current week, there was some news events that caused oil to go lower, but then today there was a really good setup taking us higher. And if we were to go to a tick chart, for example, just to take a look at things, you can see that today we did kind of get a good support area down on this level, and then we almost had a low to high here, but didn't quite pull back all the way and just ripped higher. I did not have a trade. I was watching for that particular trade and did not get filled. But overall, just as I said, we're at lows for not necessarily the year, that's down here, but this area time and time again has been tested and gone higher, and just like this area time and time again been tested and gone lower. So we'll see what comes out of this. And I think that on the daily chart, you can kind of see the setups forming where you have one low to high here, go to its target. The second low to high here is in this area. And now you have the second one, which basically the Sunday, I guess that was Friday. Friday touched us at 55.80s where this 50% is. And, you know, the low was 55.76, only 4 ticks under that 50, which is really remarkable. And so far we've gone up higher from that area. And we'll see if we go to the targets up here at 58s. So those are the fibs kind of taking you higher in this range, and we'll see what comes of it, like I said. And then moving on to gold, this has been the one that has been most talked about. I feel like I had a request to talk about this. And so let's just get into this one then. So what we've had for a while, as I talked about in the other videos, was, you know, for the first time in a long time, we got up to the 1500s, right? And even 1400. It's been a very long time since we got up there. I think 2013 or so was the last time. And so to me, it's very cool to see that because I remember being in high school or so and always like waiting for gold to get up into that area, and it just, you know, wouldn't ever do it. And then finally this year it did, and it was pretty remarkable to witness that. However, what comes with that territory is what we just talked about in the S&P 500. You have untested levels in some sense of recent past. And because of that, you eventually do have to pull back and test your real levels again. And so as you see in my last video, I believe I mentioned this, where we should pull back eventually because, you know, we've been up here for so long without testing real levels, I like to call them. And so when we look at the chart, there's a really nice low to high setup here, right? And there's another low to high setup that goes over here. And those have been kind of the main points to take us where we are now. Okay, and some other setups along the way here, but those are the main ones. Now, when we look at the highs, you know, we ended up taking out some lows, swing lows that is, and because of that, we had a nice high to low setup. We end up taking the same setup to the new low here. Hits the 50 a few times, little consolidation range, you can call it that if you'd like, and then now we're starting to move lower toward this target. And so what I like about this area, though, even though we're in a short, even though we're near a target to go lower, I do like that we're testing kind of like these, you know, we moved up higher from, we had a low to high here. We ended up moving higher. We kind of consolidated here for a little bit, just a little bit. And then boom, ran up higher again. And I like that this area in this range is acting almost as support already. And so this range in particular, I think is going to serve as some type of support. Now, whether or not we really do bounce from here, I would appreciate seeing that. I think we could see that. But completing this target will be interesting because then we could see more aggressive shorts come into play and try to take this thing back down into the 1300s and possibly looking for, you know, a low to high level in this particular area. I think 1350 to 1400 would be an area of possible really good entry. But I do think that there's a high possibility as well that we bounce off of the support levels that we're going to hit in this range and then end up going higher from there. And so that's kind of what I've seen so far. Again, there is a short, there is a target still on the board that we can go to and hit, but I do like the long setups occurring, and I think going through this target to the downside would allow for more shorts to come in and try to short the market as well. So it'll be an interesting play to see what happens. And me being a day trader, I don't, you know, I like to look at the bigger trend like this, and I do enjoy trying to figure out where the macro move is and what's going to happen. But as a day trader, I'm prepared to short, I'm prepared to go long. I will do anything so long the market gives me a good setup. And so whichever setup I see is what I'm going to trade. And that's how I think all traders should be. We'll wrap it up there, and I hope that helps. And if you have questions, comments, anything, let me know in the comments. Go ahead and follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and subscribe if you like the content. All right, guys, have a good one.